That should not forget the recording on all of these so far, which is go me. Uh,
I
ah,
just heard robot lady.
yep.
Yes.
Yeah. So, hi, welcome to episode I don't know because I don't know what order these are going to get laid out in. Um, I'm here with my friend Jim, who I've known for probably 20 years now. Um, and
Wow, just 20? More than that.
oh,
More than that.
yeah, maybe by a little bit, but yeah, like it's because we did it. I met you because we did a show in College Station for that compilation or something that we were all on, and then
Oh my God, yes.
back when you went.
Yes. Yeah.
So Jim
Uh-huh.
is a master of many things. And why don't you go ahead and just give the quick rundown of your deal?
My deal is I run Distortion Productions, the record label. I sing in the band Red Locust, and uh, I used to DJ. I don't much anymore. Occasionally I do. And I run the Electronic Saviors Industrial Music to Cure Cancer fundraiser, and I'm a full time nerd. But that doesn't that
That is why we are here today. In
it
fact,
doesn't pay. It doesn't pay. It's not a lucrative
oh,
deal.
no, it all costs. Guess because you go and you visit Jim and his house has all the record label things all over the place, and then there's the room, and you enter the room.
It's a few rooms now.
It's been a while since I've been, and it's wall to wall Star Wars figures, all pristinely in their cages, in their boxes. So my singular question that I ask about all of this stuff is what was the first thing you remember as a kid that really hooked you? Like for more than a couple of weeks. Time is so weird when you're a kid. So it's like the first thing that like really stuck with you and made you want to know everything you could about the thing.
The earliest um, memory I have of something like that would be somewhere around 3 years old. And it was the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea record and picture book.
Mhm.
Um, because I had a thing for octopus and squids
Mhm.
or anything with multiple limbs like that, any creatures with multiple limbs, I was always fascinated by. And I like deep sea creatures and things that lived in the ocean, um, cuttlefish, and anything like sort of a crustacean based
Mhm.
kind of thing. I was always fascinated by as at a very young age. But I remember, the picture book of that 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Instead of like I've heard multiple versions. I never actually read the book by Jules Verne, but is there just one giant squid in there? Because in this picture book,
So I've
there
never
were a bunch
um
of squids attacking the
yeah
ship.
I've never seen the movie, although I do remember the Nautilus, the ship,
Yeah.
being just incredibly badass.
So like after that, it was Star Wars.
Mhm.
Um, and and superheroes. Like I was telling my friends after the first Fantastic Four trailer aired a few weeks ago, I'm like, the earliest memory I have of superheroes is the Fantastic Four,
Mhm.
because I was born in the 70s, and that's when they had a little robot, a little floating robot that's in the trailer named
Mhm.
Herbie. And so you know, seeing that trailer like brought up all kind of emotions, for me. Uh, and, uh, and so it's from a very young age, I've always like kind of liked, superheroes and been like sort of fascinated with comics and stuff like that. So yeah, it just kind of has always been an obsession.
I was yeah, so you're maybe 5 years younger than I am, maybe two or three, I don't know.
I'm
Did you actually-
48 right
Okay, so
now.
yeah, so 5 years. So did you see Star Wars in the theater like when it came out in 76?
I was 77.
77, yeah.
I was 1 year old.
Yeah.
I was told by my parents that they took my brother and me to a drive-in theater but I was only one, so I don't
Right.
remember it. That apparently was my first movie, but I don't remember actually seeing it until a few years later. But here's an interesting fact. I didn't see Empire Strikes Back until after I saw Return of the Jedi.
Oh,
I
wow.
saw I saw Return of the Jedi in theaters when I
Oh,
was
yeah.
6 in 1983, and I
Mhm.
remember that vividly. And
Right.
I remember being just blown away by that. And,
Mhm.
Jabba's palace, the Sarlacc pit, all that stuff. And because I liked stuff with tentacles and multiple arms, the Sarlacc pit was like,
Yeah, of course.
I love that whole sequence, right?
Mhm.
So, but in between those movies, we had the comics and the
Mhm.
storybooks. So I knew the events of
Mhm.
Empire Strikes Back, but because we didn't get to the movies to see it and I had the trading cards and stuff, I
Mhm.
knew everything that happened. I didn't see it until it came on HBO after I had already seen Return of the Jedi.
I got
So,
in trouble right before Empire came out, and I wasn't allowed to see it
do
for like a month.
you remember what you did?
Oh yeah. Yeah, my family was visiting my grandparents in Virginia, in Springfield, Virginia. And we lived in Alexandria at the time. I was in second grade, and I walked because I wanted to go see them and I didn't want to do homework. I walked from our house in apartment in Alexandria, Virginia, down 95, 8 miles to my grandparents' house. I just left. And yeah, my mother, of course, was flipping out. As I was walking in, my grandmother was on the phone going, "Oh, and here's Stephen now." Um, yeah, that didn't go over well, though it does say a lot about the person that I have since turned into, which has always been I'm going to go do this,
Yeah.
you know, and you can come along for the ride if you want, but yeah. So yeah, but so I didn't get to see it in the theater until it'd been out for about a month, but I did have the comic book of it. So
Yeah.
again, I did know about it. But yeah, that was pretty traumatic and that was a very long month. But yeah,
But that was back when we had to wait 3 years in between movies. And
right, right. And if you missed it, it was gone. It wasn't like
yeah.
you could go and watch it again.
Yeah.
Although I did when my grandparents had a VCR, I did make an audio cassette of all of Star Wars, like across two tapes that I could listen to.
That's awesome.
Um, so it's interesting because I have not been never been a comic book guy until like mid '80s with stuff like Watchmen or Electro Assassin, like when they started to become really meaty.
Yeah.
Um, and I was thinking about this to the last person I was talking to about comics, and part of the reason was because waiting a month between issues, it's just like by the time that I'm just going to get distracted and wander off, and so there was never anything that really held me. But it's fascinating to me the number of people who are that's been such a core element to their lives, and it still is for you.
Yeah.
Um,
I tend to thrive in, I always feel like I'm fighting against chaos to make it into order. I am a lot more comfortable in my life and I'm a lot less stressed out when I have an order to things and rather than when things are chaotic. And I always try to sort of, this is like, uh, you know, recurring kind of thing in my life where I'm always trying to make sense of the chaos and try to make it into some order in some way you know but that's I've always been that way ever since I can remember so yeah even keeping comics in order in a certain like sequence. People are like, wow, you have everything, you have a lot of things in your room, but they're all like in a way that is sort of structured.
right, yeah. Well, I mean, I imagine if you've been into it for so long, you have amassed a volume of crap.
Yes.
You have to maybe keep it more order than I'm able to do. But yeah, and particularly with stuff like that, which does have an innate amount of value to it. and is collectible.
Yeah.
Like which is always fascinating to me, like walking into the Star Wars room, um, because again, that's not how I'm wired. I tend to only buy things that are some variant of an art supply, something that I am building stuff with or making stuff with or whatever. I have very few things that you're just kind of like, you know. Um, so it is fascinating to me that is the collectible mindset.
Hmm.
Um, and then the collectible mindset, and then not doing anything with them other than having them.
Yeah. It's more about having sort of a physical representation of something that you love.
That's how
And
I've always looked at it, actually, is as a way to remind yourself of who you are.
yeah,
The
yeah,
things
it
that are
it
important.
becomes your identity in a way. I mean, I don't have like I've seen your work. In fact, I have pictures or pieces of your art, in my room, and I look at things like that, or people that can do things like that, like sketch covers that I have hanging on my wall from comic book artists that I get at conventions and
Mhm.
stuff. And I'm like, I cannot do that. Everyone has a unique skill set. And then I look at you and what you're able to do, and it blows my mind. I'm just like, he can make stuff out of nothing, and I can't do that, at least not in that same way.
Yeah, yeah.
I can make stuff out of nothing in terms of building compilations.
And
I
motivating people and all of the architecture like that in and of itself is pretty amazing to me. That I mean, you're cool. Let's talk about the Electronic Saviors compilations. Like that's one of those, which is tends to be, I think the largest was 6 or 7 or 8 discs.
eight of them, yeah. That
So
was the
that
largest one.
what 80 to 100 individual songs and artists.
Yeah. We've had over 400 bands involved since the beginning. And the way it's been described to me by Jason from Mindless Faith. He wrote a testimonial once, and this kind of always stuck with me. He was like, he used to make me mixtapes in college because we went to college together, and at Penn State, and I would always make him these mixtapes of bands like Iron Lung Core, Spawn Ranch, bands he hadn't heard at that point, and turned him on to some new stuff. And he said he looked at Electronic Sages as just another one of those
Yeah,
mixtapes,
absolutely.
just on a more grand scale. And it's just like, it's so great that I can work with some of the people that I've gotten to work with. It's incredible to me. Like, I never in my wildest dreams ever thought that I would get to work with some of these people. And I still have a list of people I would like to work with. Like,
Yeah, of course.
I had a heart to heart with Chris from Stabbing Westward at Dark Force Fest last year. He came to the table and he saw the display and he was just like, wow. He was like, I have to be involved with this. And I was like, well, let's do something. And we kind of talked, man to man, like sort of private,
Yeah, yeah.
about the experience of being a survivor and the kind of guilt you carry, and I'm like, man, I'm going to forget that I'm talking to you right now, who I, used to see play when I was
Mhm.
a lot younger in clubs, and I just, I basically asked him some questions about his experience
Yeah,
of,
yeah.
because I had some experiences whenever I was going through it.
Well, and let's actually
Um,
talk about that because for people who don't know, the entire reason this happened was because.
yeah, yeah, I in 2008 I was diagnosed with what was then called stage 2B colorectal cancer. Now, if the way my doctor tells me now, he said that if they would have diagnosed me now, it would have been a 3, easy. He was like, it was a 3 by today's standards. Back then, it was a 2B because it hadn't grown through the wall yet.
Yeah,
If it would have grown through the wall and got into the lymph nodes, I probably would have been
yeah.
a goner. But
Mhm.
I really lucked out. in the way that some other people really didn't.
Mhm.
Like Chadwick Boseman, for I believe he was had the same thing as me, and I'm still here and he's not. My friend Corey Devlin, who used to play guitar from Dead on TV, same thing as me. He's not here anymore, and I still am, and I struggle with that. Blaine Alexander from Insight 23 and Idiot Stare. He same thing as me. He's not here anymore, and I am, and I get a little emotional when I think about these things, because I can't really. It's hard for me to articulate all of what's happened since 2008, and the people that I've gotten to work with on, just a level of, hey, we'd like to be a part of this. Here's a track, to, hey, we want you to sing on our track. We want you to come up on stage and join us. Or, me asking, can I come up on stage and join you to sing? I think it was at Dave Shock's festival. I was up there with almost every band.
Mhm.
But it's more about, I think, the community, and the fact that collaboration, there's a lot of that comes
Mhm.
out of these things. More
Yeah, absolutely.
people work together, and that's an environment I always like to cultivate at my label.
Mhm.
Like, I have Blue Eyed Christ wrote a song for Saviors that Jane Jensen sings on,
Mhm.
and they're two of my artists, and it's a great track. I sung on the Dissector song, and Dissector's a band that I've always really liked, and I really like those dudes, and uh, respected them, and always wanted to do something with. Like,
Mhm.
working with my own band is awesome. I love working with Lee, and our latest record is, I consider, the best thing I've ever written
Mhm.
in my life. And but when you work with someone in a different band, it's a different context. It's
Absolutely,
um,
absolutely, and it means more. Like, I mean, if you got your own band, then that's your own band.
yeah,
Part of
yeah,
it,
and
you're obliged to write with them. But another band coming to you, or just saying, "Yeah, please, let's do something together." It's always, like okay, it just personally validating. It's because it's nice to like to be like, "Oh, okay,
yeah,
you respect what I do or whatever," and I think because for within our scene, within our little bands, like, yeah, we are out there on tour and doing that thing, but we all kind of like are isolated in our own little worlds.
mhm.
So like I literally have no idea beyond the number of people that come out to my shows or whatever how my bands are seen by my peers, unless it's something that has somehow come up at some point.
Right.
Like, or within the pantheon of all of it. And that's fine because like it's you know it, it's okay to not know that. But I mean, I know it's not why I do it.
Right. I mean, on some level, you must know
Oh, I
about,
know that we do better than many people. Not as well as some people, and there's enough that I can still do what I do. So
like,
that's that's what I know.
we played a gig with Daniel Meyer's Destroyed project up in Jersey, um, last summer. And was it last summer? Yeah, I think it was August or something. Lisa did the show, and we played with Los's band.
Yeah, yeah.
They went on first, Countermeasure, and we went on second. Destroyed went on third, and I really like Daniel a lot, and he's always been really sweet to me, and he has a really good sense of humor.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, I'm gonna have fun with him when I'm up there.
Hmm.
He was in the audience and he was watching us, and I'm like, wow, he's actually watching us play.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to watch us play. It's like Johan from Suicide Commando watched us play.
But we were doing a show once, and Levi was like sitting, in the door watching our entire set for like, it
Yeah,
was just like. Don't you know who you are?
Yeah, yeah. It's just like I love that, and it's so during the set, in between one of the songs, I I said, look, it's real surreal being up here and playing with a band I've listened to since college, and I'm like, I'm 48, so let me ask you, how old is that guy? And I saw him go, oh, bird. Just like, and then like during the, I think it was like two songs after that, there was like a part in the song where I don't sing. It's like a breakdown. So I sometimes, if the stage is conducive for me to do this, and at QXTs it is, I will run off of the stage and go out into the crowd and run around and sort of watch Lee play, but Daniel kind of had his back turned and he didn't see me leave stage. And I ran up to him and I tapped him on the shoulder and he turned around and he's like, oh, what the fuck? I ran back up on stage. It was pretty funny. And after the show, he comes up to me with a smile and he shook my hand and he was like, you're a really good front man. And I'm like, wow, thank you. I'm like, that means to me, and it's when something like that happens, it's not like it's a validation thing, but it's more like it's it's amazing to me to that you were once sitting in your college apartment and you were listening to this guy from Germany, so far away from you, and where he wrote those songs and the time frame and when he wrote those songs, and then fast forward 20 years later, and you're or more than that, almost 30, and you're playing a show together and you get to see him play some of those songs, and then he says that to you, and it's just like, it's amazing that and I mean, Steven, I feel really, really fucking lucky that
Absolutely. And I think that one of the things that this you were always a motivated person before the scare. You're a motivated person. But I think when you have those moments, you can so many people are like, I knew another guy who actually went through a similar thing. So I'm turning my life around and I'm doing this thing, and that lasts for 6 months and then nothing. But you maintained that inertia and ran with it and did something really positive. Still to this day, that has not been, because one of the things I have a Daniel Meyer story I want to tell you in a second, just because it's really fucking funny. But one of the things we haven't touched on is the amount of money that you have actually made with these for charity for
117,000.
right,
And I didn't plan on doing one beyond six,
right.
beyond volume six. That was it, because I kind of felt like after doing one every 2 years and keep in mind, we were never late.
Hmm.
We always met release date. Everything always went according to schedule.
And it's just such a ridiculous amount of work.
And it's an incredible undertaking. It's a gargantuan amount, and we did it every 2 years. And then, even though I didn't have a record label, Distortion existed purely as a concert promotion back
Mhm.
then. And then Chase Dudley from Boxed Warning, he was, when we were doing ES2, he was like, I want to release Boxed Warning as a CD, but I want to do it on Distortion. I'm like, what do you mean, like at a record label? I was like, I'm not ready for that. And he was like, well, why don't we just try it? And, so he was the one that sort of goaded me into it. And then shortly after that, Shuttered Down, a local Pittsburgh band, wanted to work with me and release with me. And then you came along
Mhm.
very shortly after that,
Yeah.
and with your first Stoneburner record. And um, I always tell people, I was like, we were the first people to sign Stoneburner. We were the first label. So, and it's, while the Saviors thing was consistent, at the beginning of Distortion, when I was doing Saviors and Distortion at the same time, which I am still doing that now, I woke up one morning to a phone call from Anesh, and
Mhm.
I don't know how that happened. I don't know how he got my number. I don't know exactly, and maybe it was one of the times I brought him through. Maybe I gave him a
Oh
card
yeah,
or something.
probably. Like yeah, yeah.
And you know, he wanted to release, and then the Dope Stars thing happened, and then the Klaus Larson thing happened, and I was not ready for that early in
Yeah,
the
of course.
label. It was I was dealing with, you know, bigger names than I thought. I I and I didn't know what I was doing,
Mhm.
and uh, and so
So, I mean, so much of any of this with is just learning to say, like, there's been actually a fairly common theme throughout these interviews is people starting all of this stuff, and they're always you know, nobody I am speaking with is like immensely successful on the real world level, but they're doing pretty well for what they do, and almost all of them are successful because they just said, sure, let's go, let's figure it out, we'll make it work.
yeah,
You
what am
know?
I going to say no to
Right,
the
exactly.
to Klaus Larson? I'm never going to say no to that guy.
Right.
And uh, and essentially, or NS, or you know, the Dope Stars Inc. guy, you know, Victor. I mean, you know, they've all been great, you know, but you got to a point, or I got to a point where I was 30 something releases in, and I was writing my own, you know, second Red Locust record, and then the pandemic happened,
Mhm.
and no, it was more like 50 releases in at that point, with Distortion. And I was like, you know, before the pandemic happened, I was writing the second record, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna do ES6, and then I think that's it, because this should push us over the 100 grand goal, which is what I had from the beginning. I'm like, it would be really great to hit 100 grand one day and just be like, you
And
know,
that's a,
this
a
is,
good solid number.
yeah, and but the thing is that it's ongoing, and that I'm still getting,
Mhm.
you know, royalty checks from Metropolis, you know, that we're donating, and that are helping me facilitate other smaller releases,
Mhm.
like the Lost Boys or the Dravens mixtape, or you know, the Transformers one, you know. So there's those spin-offs, but I felt like if the label was going to really like kind of grow, and I was going to sign more artists and devote more time to that, I kind of had to put Saviors to bed. And
Right.
um, it wasn't until 2023 when we were out at Mechanismus, when you know, I did a panel discussing, and you know, the obvious "Where's Volume 7"
Mhm.
subject came up, and I was like, you know what, it wasn't meant to go beyond six, um, because I had a label to focus on that has grown a lot. Like now we're at 150 releases,
Mhm.
and I'm not exactly sure. Uh, I have no intention of stopping, but you know, I'm not exactly sure if I could, you know, capable of doing another Saviors at the capacity that I'm at now. Do I
Right.
have enough bandwidth to do it?
Right.
And then, you know, Christian Petke from Cop, and Nina from Metropolis, and I think about Dave all the time, Dave Heckman, and you know, about how if he didn't say yes that one summer afternoon in July when he called me and said, I want to release your project, one, I don't know if I would have made it.
Mhm.
I don't know if I would have lived through chemo and radiation, and all that
That gave
brutal
you something
stuff.
to hold on to.
Yeah, and it gave me a singular focus.
Mhm.
Again, back to structure,
Right.
you know, back to that focus on something that I needed to do, and the fact that I had worked with, you know, you and Donna, Wade, Ned from Stromkern, Tom from Assemblage, you know, Eric from 16 Volt, Jared from ChemLab, you know, Jason from Acumen, and I had built up like sort of a, a large amount of people that I had worked with on shows over the years, or just met through DJing, you know, and if I could contact them
Mhm.
to get involved with something cool. And I knew not everybody would. I mean, I've I've talked to Ogre and Bill Lieb about being on Saviors, and it's always like, yeah, whenever you're ready for the next one, give us a call or whatever, get in touch with me. And I always try and I always fail. Which is like, no, I mean, it's impossible to get a hold of those guys. They have like probably the craziest schedules that I could imagine, and I'm not even sure that they would even remember who I was at that point. Uh, but the label's grown a lot, and then I'm on the panel, and I'm like, three circumstances to get me to do a volume 7 have to happen. And one of them is Metropolis would have to be on board to partner up the way they did in the past. And Nina shouted out from the audience, we're on board. And immediately after that panel, she called Gail, her mom, Dave's wife, and she came. This was at Mechanismus, so this was like right before the band started playing. I think Glass Apple Bonsai was about to play, and this might have been the day that we played to the Red Locust set. She came running up to me. She was like, "Gail's on board. Gail wants to do it," and I'm like, "Oh God, I guess I'm doing this again." And like, how do you top 6 brilliant pieces of work like that? And I'm like, aside from Nina being on board, Christian was in the audience at the panel too, and he was like, "We're on board too," And then after the two of them took me aside, and he was like, You have to keep it going, man." And he was like, "There's still demand, it's still something people talk about, and it's still an amazing project. You're still, affecting people's lives with it." And I'm like, well, I don't know if I can get the 2 other stipulations that I said to work. The second one is to get Jeff Confer and Samantha Johnson to do the artwork again. I wouldn't do it without them. They're a Lynch. I mean, they sell it. It's their artwork that brings the mood and the tone to, and the emotionality to it, right? 2 phone calls after Mechanismus. They both, I mean, they used to be a couple. They used to be together back when they were my neighbors. In fact, Jeff carried me down the steps one day because I was dying from pancreatitis from the chemo, and had me taken to the hospital. I remember that was a nightmare. But Jeff and Sam have been dear friends. They split up somewhere around ES3. They split, and now Sam lives out west somewhere. I can't remember exactly where she lives, but Jeff lives down in Alabama. And is like a Krav Maga instructor, and he's doing like tattoo apprenticeship and stuff like that. And Sam is she doesn't do art as much anymore. She's like becoming a farmer, and she was like, "I never would have thought I would have been a farmer," and I'm like, "That's so cool," So they both agreed, but the third stipulation was, and the hardest one, as you know, the tracks had to be all 100% completely new and original. And I didn't know until just this past New Year's if I was going to be able to pull it off or not. Because you get to a point where I'm like, "Okay, guys, Savior submissions are due in 3 months. Okay, guys, Savior submissions are due in 2 months. Okay, guys, you've had all year. Savior submissions are due in a month." And then you're down to like, a couple weeks left, and you're really stressing because you need 13 more songs, and you're almost there but not quite. And then there, a couple bands drop out, and that's the worst feeling, man. The worst. You can't imagine. Like, and that all happened around New Year's time. And I was just like, God, how many of these gut punches can I take? And but then with the 2 bands that dropped out, 2 other bands came in that were completely unexpected. And I'll tell you what I won't tell you the bands that dropped out, but I will tell you the bands that replaced them was Dracos from FGFC
Oh yeah, I
820
remember that.
and Sebastian Komar, who used to be an icon of Coil, and he did his own project for a while. And both of those tracks are bangers.
Oh, I'm sure.
And like, oh my God, okay, that makes up for it. Like, but then you hear something like, I was at work, and this was sometime in November, and I had just got done doing the daily totals, and I checked my email on my phone, and there's a message from Mark Hawkins from Mesh,
Hmm.
and I love Mark. Like, I that guy's music, and so he's a hell of a songwriter, and the kind of songwriting that you listen to and it makes you mad because of how good they are.
Oh yeah.
And you're just like, God damn, he's so good. Like, man, like the songs you wish you had written, right?
Hmm.
And he said, "Hey, we have a song for you. It's a Black Car Burning song, his side project,
Yeah,
right?"
yeah. The cop.
And he was like, I hope you like it. I hope it's good enough to make the cut." And I sat down and I listened to it, and no bullshit. Like, it was exactly what I needed to hear at that moment. And there tends to be one track like this on every comp that is like the soul
Hmm.
of the thing. Not that I feel like it ties the whole thing together,
Hmm.
but it's this slow track, and it's called "I Need to Carry On Breathing," and it is so gorgeous. I cannot wait for people to hear this song. Like, I mean, the whole thing. You're going to be blown away by some of the stuff on there.
Commercial time. So when Stoneburner started out, it was based on this idea of what would dance music on a racket sound like. So I did 6 records plus some EPs and basically a ton of that material, and then got tired of it, which is why Stoneburner turned into this other thing. And it's been 8 years or so, and thought it'd be kind of fun to go and revisit that style of music. So I've recently started up a project called going under the name Christ Knife that is essentially all of that stuff with a few new things added to it. And you can find all of that at christknifearrakis.com. So if you're into kind of tribal dance music, yeah, it's probably your thing. So please check that out. It's out on Wolfcore Records, my little label.
It's crazy. Like, Mark Allen Miller's track, his Out track, is just insane, insanely good. And yeah, you when you hear that and you have moments like that, and you're just like, wow, it's all worth it, and this country's going to shit, and but at least I have these people that really believe in something, that really can touch your heart and your soul, and make you a believer,
Mm-hmm.
and to thinking maybe life's not so bad. And it's just like what you have to see other people go through, and what a lot of my friends in the trans community are dealing with right now, and with everything that's going on in this country. And not to get too political or anything like that, but we've definitely had better times, here, and it feels like every day is a struggle, and I'm just some guy that gets to live his dream when a lot of people don't get to, and now they have to live in fear
Mm-hmm.
of not living at all.
Right.
And it's jarring. um that you have these two extremes. It's
Mhm.
almost like it's a manic thing. It's you have people that and some of these people that are in the danger that I just talked about, they're those same people that lift you up.
That's always fascinating to me. I don't understand. Like I had somebody on my page for a while that was apparent was trans and they were like a Trump supporter. And I was like, okay, like what why are you doing you are making things worse for everybody.
Yeah, and it's not in their best interests,
Right.
uh, to and you know what? But when someone believes something so blindly, it's really hard to turn them
Oh, of course. Yeah,
around.
no,
And I know I'm sure I'm guilty of that.
mhm.
If I come out of a movie like Avengers Infinity War, which is like my favorite movie of all time, I never had a movie experience like that in my life. I came out of that movie, and if someone were to come up to me and be like, Jim, that movie really wasn't that good, I'd have been like, fuck you, man. It's like, but when you have somebody, especially in politics and their beliefs system, who believe in something so blindly that they'll not only harm their own career over,
Mhm.
which you know blows my mind. Um, but they'll sell out their friends
Right.
or who they thought were their friends
Right.
at the time, or maybe these people did, hooked you up with a gig, or you played a gig with them,
Mhm.
one time, or you know whenever I see you, and I haven't seen you for a long time, like I wish I could reach through the screen right now and just give you a hug, but I can't. And so if I see you at a festival, or the next time you play here, or something like that, I will always hug first, ask questions later. You
You're
know,
one of the most emotionally pure people I know. It's everything that you feel immediately comes through, which is incredibly charming.
I I've always like, I don't know, and maybe that's not such a good thing in some ways, because
It's
uh,
honest. I just don't know. It's very rare that honesty is a bad thing.
I didn't realize when I was younger, and I would date, and um, it's like, even like the first time you fall in love,
Mm.
you know, the first time you fall in love is such a jarring thing.
Sure. Yeah.
It's such it transcends any kind of emotion. And like, then I felt like I dated this girl in college that told me that I'm hyper emotional. Like, I feel things like way deeper than I should. And
I always
and
wanted to work with
I
this.
and that always, I it was always sort of portrayed to me that that meant there was something wrong with me. And I'm not exactly sure that that's the case. The older I get, that aspect of me hasn't changed. It's definitely on a more mature level, to where, and let me give you an example of what I mean. I adore Jim, Kukas, and Brittany from Ice and Tilla, the whole band, really. Vince and Dean, but I stay with them usually when I go out to Chicago for Cold Waves, and they take such good care of me. They're such amazing hosts, and they just played Dark Force Fest this past time, and I was so happy that I was going to be in an environment where I didn't have to worry about, you know, promoting their show, like here in Pittsburgh, um, or we weren't in Chicago, at their place. We were in a completely new kind of area where
Mm.
we could just like let loose and party and like have the best time, right?
That's the thing about those festivals. It's like, yes, it's cool. I get to see the bands and all that. But the main thing is I get to see my friends
Yes, yes.
in a environment, and we also get to watch. the craft of what the other person does, you know?
Exactly, exactly. And I love that. And it's just like I ran into them at the bar, but Jim wasn't there. He was up in the room. And so we were all like, drinking, having fun, and just joking, being goofy, being ourselves and stuff like that. But then they said they had to, it wasn't for very long. It was maybe 15, 20 minutes. And then they said they had to go because they had like they had to get up early, and then they had to go, and Brittany wanted to stay and hang out, but like Vince was the voice of reason. He was like, no, we should really go, we have to get up early, and you know we should go. And so they went, and like after they went, I got so profoundly sad. Like I like they left, and I was there by myself in that little restaurant bar area. You
Mm.
know, you know what I'm talking about, where they have that amazing breakfast buffet in the morning. So I was there, and I just got so like it's just like I felt like a rain cloud just like moved in right over me, and I
Mhm.
sat down in one of the booths, and I just sat there, and like I had my cash box there because I came right from my table to there, so I hadn't gone up to my room yet. And my two friends, Crane, Crane
Of
Fish,
course, yeah.
her and my friend Tim Pierce from Pittsburgh here. I was supposed to hang out with them too, so they were messaging me, and like they were like, "Where are you at? What are you doing?" And I was like, "Guys, I think I just want to go to my room." I was like, I'm feeling really sad right now. Like I just said goodbye to friends that I was really hoping I could spend some time with, and it makes it like I'm thinking about it now, and it makes me like kind of well up, because like I don't I wish I had more time
Hmm.
with these people.
Sure.
And I feel the same way, that like I get this feeling every time I do a show in
Mhm.
Pittsburgh and I have to say goodbye. I'm the worst at goodbyes. I hate it, because I feel like why can't I spend more time with this person? Well, that
Mhm.
they have to go on, and then I'm going. They have to go and do, go to the next city and stuff. But it's only with people that I feel like a really deep connection to.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Like it's not this doesn't happen with like every band. I'm not like some band whore. Or maybe I am. But it's I just I feel this sort of profound connection to people like that I really love and admire.
Yeah, I mean,
And
I think that's part of the whole experience. Like when you go out on tour with another band and like you're living with them for months,
yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever, then you get home and all of a sudden it's kind of like there were 12 more people in my life,
yeah.
every moment, and now they're gone. And it's good, like there's something missing, and it takes a while to like kind of figure out exactly what that is.
And you know what I miss the most about it? Like it's the laughs.
Hmm.
I miss those laughs, man. Like when I get home from like, and I've never gone out for weeks at a time. I've only gone out for like, a week
Hmm.
here, a week there, 4 days here, 3 days there, just because of my job and stuff and my vacation time. But it's the laughs.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, I miss those laughs. Oh, what did he say? Do you remember when so and so said this? And oh, did he? And I was like, yeah, it was so funny. And I'm just like, oh my God, it was just an amazing, time. I really enjoy these people, and they're and being around them, and I get to see them play night
Hmm.
after night after night. And it's a different kind of experience that no one else that hasn't done it
Yeah,
could
yeah.
ever understand. No one
Yeah.
can understand that. Am I
I,
making sense, or am I just
no,
rambling?
no, it makes complete sense. I mean, and it's one of those things too that for me, like, I've said this before. I live a world away from reality. Like we live in the woods, and
Yeah, I've been to your place.
right, and like this shit's all I do. And so when I get a chance to spend time with those people that do have a very, very similar experience, you know, because it's not just like this magic thing of like, hey, I've got all this stuff, I make the thing. But it's like there is a ridiculous amount of time that goes into the art of all of it and trying to make this thing that matters to you that you feel like you need to create. And so being able to then go out and spend time, like one of the people I think of, and there are many of them, but is JD from Grundle.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah,
he is one of the genuine, most nice people I've ever known, but he's also very much like an artist and is willing to stand up for the things he believes in and all that stuff. Like I made a post about like how, there was myself and then there was a handful of other people that I know for the last 8 years who have been shouting at the top of their lungs about all of this bullshit. And he
hmm
was one of, he was like standing up and saying the things that needed to be said. With no, for me, it's always are you putting your money where your mouth is, or are you saying it where it's safe? You
yeah,
know? And so when you do get to spend that much time with these people that you can really, really relate to, and it is like one of the weird things about it for me that I think is really interesting is you can meet somebody that you've never known, like you might know them off in the distance or whatever, and all of a sudden you immediately know all of these things that you all have in common. So it's just kind of like, you know,
yeah,
so
yeah,
so
and
so it's like you can meet somebody and immediately be like, oh, and they're gone. They're like, fuck, man, I really miss them, even though like you really don't know them particularly well, but you know all of these common elements of your life just because you
yeah,
do. And then there's also just the physical experience of going out and, you know, I would never say that like you do it through you're throwing yourself in front of people and you're exposing yourself when you're on stage. I mean it's a job and it's a show and all of those things. But there is something about that commonality of like you are getting up there and saying all of this stuff and doing all of this stuff and the audience is not the enemy, but you're also don't they're an unknown quantity sometimes.
yeah,
So you have that experience. And then even weirder shit that happens, like where, you'll be out on tour and the other van loses a wheel or you blow a wheel or you're in the middle of nowhere and somebody has to go to the hospital. And, so there's all kinds of like that, you know, again, just figuring out all the logistics and getting through all of
yeah.
that stuff that you're bonding on as well. Yeah, my strongest relationships I've ever had that I still have are with people that we went out on the road with and survived. Um, so no, I think it's a very reasonable whenever you find that and then we go to our little dark little holes and we do the
hmm
thing and you isolate it again and you feel like it's you
You feel
going into
alone.
this void,
There's yeah,
screaming.
there's an aloneness to it, and there are times where I absolutely love being alone. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, I think a part of it stems from when you part with these people that you've spent time with or you've shared laughter with and hugged and loved up on people. There's the fear. I think part of it comes from the fear of, am I ever really going to see this person again? Like, there, especially now, there's a very real uh, part of it that, you might not,
Mhm.
like
Yeah, you just,
I'm hearing more, and I'm seeing examples of this. This just happened to a young girl in her 30s, a girl who I was friends with on social media, but didn't know in person. But a lot of other people here in Pittsburgh did. A lot of my friends did. She's like 37. She dropped dead of a stroke.
right.
And it's happening more and more often, of young people either getting, like Corey got colon cancer at 30, or 29. He was gone by 31, and, or heart attacks in younger people. And so when you say goodbye to these people, you're not guaranteed.
Hmm.
There's no guarantees in life.
Oh, no.
And there's every chance in the world that you might not have that laugh with them again,
Mhm.
or tell that joke, or just be goofy, or like, how many dick jokes have you heard come from me over the years, Stephen?
Yeah.
uh a lot. And
Mhm.
and our whole prank war back in
I
2012,
forgot about that.
the great prank war of 2012. And you can't recreate those moments and those good times, and we still get to have them, but you know the reality of it is, for how long, you don't know. And so you make the most of
Absolutely.
every time that see, like, next time I see you, it's gonna, because we did this, it's gonna, make me, grab you and hug and kiss you all the more, because we got to do this tonight.
Yeah.
But you know at the same time, I know that when I you get me on these subjects, you put a dime in, you got to let the whole song play out. I tend to ramble and talk about stuff like this that I
The
just.
whole thing is about passions and life. I mean, it is the ultimate passion that you have, and you you had a chance, you almost lost it, and you still love it, and you still are doing something with it, and you know, and you're showing that it's not just about like it can manifest in the forms of collecting things and wanting to know about stuff, but it can also just simply manifest as recognizing the transient nature of all of it, and you know that it is all could be gone, and you can either let it destroy you, which does nothing, or you that and that's part of why I do what I do. Is it's the only way I know to push back against entropy is to put things out and make
Yeah,
stuff.
I tell people, if I'm going to pull a Nick Fury quote from one of the Marvel movies that he was in as Sam Jackson. He says, uh, "I'm one of the realest people you're ever going to meet." I
Mm.
say I say that about you
Oh, thank you.
all the time. I'm
Thank you.
like, he's real. He won't bullshit you. He's not going to sugarcoat things. He's going to tell it to you how it is. And I've learned that from talking to you at back in my early 30s, when I was doing stuff with Reinforced, and you were like, okay, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this, and I took that advice, and it's made me a better musician. It's made me a better songwriter. It's made me a better. I mean, I know my music's not for everybody. Not everyone is into loud, stompy, sort of club music that's aggressive. That's my new album's real political.
Mhm.
Like, we wrote a song called "The Fourth Turning." Do you know what the fourth turning is?
Not familiar, but not top of my head.
Okay, I think you're going to be into this, because uh, the fourth turning it's a theory, like, that was set forth by some professors, college professors. Um, Someone sent me a video on it, and I found it really, really intriguing and spooky. And it's sort of a 20-year generational theory that states that every 20 years in the US uh, is something called a turning. And there's four of them that go in 80-year cycles.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, every 80 years, there tends to be a massive calamity at the
Mhm.
end of the 80 years that will culminate in sort of a rebirth. Okay, the previous 80 years was World War II. The 80 years before that, it was Civil War. The 80 years before that was the Revolutionary War. Little weird coincidence of that, right? Well, the first turning was considered like the period of rebirth and prosperity, and that was supposed to be like the 1950s. That ends with the assassination of JFK in the 60s, right? The second turning is considered a time of like social unrest and sort of upheaval and ended with the re-election of Ronald Reagan in 1984. The third turning went from 1984 to the collapse of the banks in 2008. And that turning deals with a period of like identity and sort of individualism, which would explain the sort of, Gen X coming of age
Mhm.
period, which is sort of, I was at the perfect age when Nirvana broke, I was perfect age for that whole grunge rock thing. Like that's what really got me into music in the first place. Because before that, it was Motley Crue and stuff, Poison and Guns N' Roses and stuff like that. Guys that were singing about partying and getting
Mhm.
laid, and I couldn't relate to any of that. I was some awkward kid. Here comes some dude in torn jeans and a flannel shirt from Seattle talking about how much he hates his life, and I
Right.
was some awkward kid in high school, and that just like spoke to me. And then Alice in Chains and Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, Tad, Mudhoney, all that stuff, all good. The fourth turning started from the collapse of the banks and hasn't ended yet.
Mhm.
Okay. Now it's supposed to end somewhere between 2028 and 2030. So I wrote a song called The Fourth Turning, and the chorus of it is you can listen to this on YouTube. When we get off here, please, go listen to this song. Um, the chorus is nuclear threat, new civil war, violence, threats, hate, and more. Not our fault. We don't know how, but we are in the fourth turning now. And we end the uh, set with that song because it's the song everyone always, you guys playing fourth turning tonight? Yes, yes, we're playing it last. And I'll even joke about it during the set. I'll be like, God, will you play the fourth turning already? But because of how spooky that whole theory is to me. You can watch videos about it that can explain it way better than I could, because I'm only going off of memory. But it inspired me to write that song. And if something massively cataclysmic is going to happen in a few years, if it does, I'll be like, hey, it panned out. But then after that is supposed to be a period of rebirth again, because it all starts over. So maybe it's supposed to reference sort of like a World War III kind of thing. But like if you look around, all the ingredients are there for that.
Mhm.
Sadly, like just today. I mean, I didn't watch the Zelensky
And I heard that.
Trump. I did not watch it. I don't want to watch it. It's just going to piss me off. Like I just saw people's reactions on socials about it, and I was just like, okay, I don't want to watch this. It's going to
Yeah,
piss
no,
me
I
off.
can't, I can't, I can't be part of the world right now. Like I'll pick it up as I need to pick it up. Like I'll check the news every few days or whatever, and anything that like is major will filter through somehow. But yeah, no, I, it's not healthy for me at this point.
Oh, I get it.
And
I
so
get it.
like I feel sorry for my friends who have to know about what's going on in order because it relates to their lives or whatever. Um, but I'm in a place now where it's like I can't do anything about it. I've done everything that I thought I could do. I'm now, or like I have my own plan for it, like this and writing stuff and things like that. But it's very much solipsistic, and I'm certainly not like it would be very funny to me if somebody were to come up and be like, well, if you're not paying attention and you're not outraged because this, then you're just trying to, deny all of them. Like, no, no, I have done my part for king and country with all of this. I did the best I could do. I did what I thought was right, and now my only concern is my family and me running around being angry and scared all the time is not conducive to the time that we have, I have with my wife or being productive as an artist, and it's certainly affected the things that I write. I'll have a record coming out I was actually expecting it to be a lot more grim than it ended up being, but I couldn't write anything that sounded like, but it's okay. It's all going to get better. We have to stick together. All these things I'm not in a place that I can say that and feel like I'm being honest about it. I am in a place where I am saying, no, shit's bad. Like I
Hmm.
have every right to feel like shit and be scared and all those things. Like it's,
Yeah.
you
Like
know,
when Lee and I were writing this record, it was Lee's idea to write a song for the Ukraine. So
mhm.
we wrote a song for the Ukraine called No War, and that song starts off with it was like the a little music box that Lee sampled of the Ukrainian national anthem, and the song ends with it too. And when we play it live, he like there's a sample of like a it's like a news reporter saying and the Ukrainian flag is flying proudly in the central square, and then the music box thing starts, and that's how the song ends. But when we play it live, we have the flag
Right.
behind us on the video,
Mhm.
and I love playing that song live because it's we played a show in DC where the sound guy was Ukrainian, and
Oh, nice.
he got real emotional like towards that. And so I dedicated to like he told me he was Ukrainian. And I'm like, well, we got something special for you in the set, and so I wrote that. There's another song on that record that I wrote after an experience I had, that about a friend that kind of went in a direction that we weren't expecting him to go, and it was real heartbreaking to see happen in real time.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I wrote a song about that, and the chorus of that is, "There's worse things than death to
Mhm.
see happen to your friends."
Yeah.
That's the chorus of that song, and I kind of feel like, because then you kind of feel like it's someone that you had fun with and you related to and you've had good times with, and now you feel like you don't know them at all.
Yeah, and I think in that particular situation, like honestly, I think I still stand by this. I think he is very, very, very sick. And like I do believe that there's probably a good person in there somewhere, but I do think he is extremely ill. And but it doesn't matter because ultimately your actions define who you are to the rest of the world. And he's acting like a piece of shit.
Yeah.
So and it's and part of the reason I say that he's sick is because he seems so completely deluded that somehow or another he's going to be proven right.
Hmm.
And I'm going to get everything back and all that stuff. And it's just like, well, you didn't listen to all the people who were like saying, "Hey, this is probably going to be a bad thing." You're only listening to the people who are like turning you against your entire career.
Yeah, yeah, and it's at the point where like I'm like, you know what, nobody's perfect.
And that was actually one of the last things I said to him was, look, I think you could get out of this if you actually went and got help and then talked about that and showed that you were doing that. But I mean, I think the idea of getting help or actually doing anything is too much for him. So it's like he's just gonna completely commit to being garbage.
Yeah, like I mean, I know, just speaking for myself, I mean, there's things that I've done and said to people in the past, like in my younger days, that were like that you regret, and you're like, I shouldn't have said that, or I'm not the kind of person that holds grudges, so I don't. There's people in my life that I really wish I could speak to again,
Mhm.
that I don't have the ability to, And
there was another guy that was in our scene that was like really supporting the first one. Who he and I were really, really good friends. And I was talking to him, I was like, you really don't want to hitch your wagon to this guy because, and he wrote me back like this insane response, like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. And I was just like, he was like, you're, what was it? You're a toxic, you're an abuser. He called me an abuser. That was right. And I was like, I'm pretty sure that the last time I spoke to you was when I was offering to fly out to California to help you to move out of your house in an emergency. And then I found you somebody else to help you with some other things. Um, but whatever, cool. And then I hear that he made a comment, oh yeah, well, I was back in that one dude, but now I can't anymore because of all this stuff. And so I'm just like, cool. And so I wrote him and I was like, hey, I'm sorry that you things didn't work out. I'm glad that you're seeing things for what they are. If you want to talk, even though you treated me like shit, I'm available.
yeah,
Haven't heard back from him. Don't know if I ever will. Uh, so, who the hell knows? But
yeah,
uh, so yeah, I mean, like if he were to ever to come and say like, yes, you were right, I was wrong. I'm sorry that I was an asshole. Then yeah, I would be the same way you are. It's just like I don't really hold grudges. I just I was just trying to help you and you responded this way.
sure. Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
And
yeah, we're all imperfect people. We all say, or you know, I mean, Lord knows I've said plenty of just inconsiderate things, generally with the idea of them being funny. But not everybody has the same sense of humor, and I
sure.
feel awful if I actually had hurt somebody because of that, and certainly would respond. I also am very aware that I tend to be very blunt, and some people can't take that. But
Yeah.
again, it's one of those things where it's like you know, I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings. But I'd rather tell you the truth than,
Yeah. I think we've had that before.
yeah,
But I can recognize that for what it
mm,
is. It's there's a uh, again, it all goes back to connections. I know you, and I know that you
an
wouldn't
intent.
intentionally,
Yeah,
say something that would harm me mentally or physically. But I don't want to be laying on my deathbed and thinking, if I even get a deathbed. I mean, look what just happened to Gene Hackman. I mean, he 95 years old, him and his wife found dead in their house. Like, what the hell happened? Like, I mean, yeah, he was 95. He got to go the long haul, man. That's
mm,
95. I don't know if I'll make it there. That's like, wow. That's crazy. But I don't want to be laying there thinking I regret doing this. I regret saying this to this person. I there's a number of things that I
yeah,
would like to say to people that it could be you could be gone so suddenly
right.
and you
And there's
might
always
not.
this idea for me where it's like the last thing I ever want to be is the guy lying on their deathbed going, well, didn't get anything done, but at least I was comfortable.
Yeah,
That's just, you know,
I want to be like we did a lot of cool shit together. That's what I want to think.
I'm going, screaming and tearing. I've got way too much. I cannot ever imagine being at a point where I'm like, no, I've made enough stuff. I've gone through all of my ideas. Okay, fine, cool.
Your footprints are there though. You have footprints.
Yeah, I
Think
do.
think think of how many people don't have that,
Yeah, no,
and that they're just going to the day to day of going to their cubicle and doing their work and then going to the bar after and then going home and going to sleep and getting up and doing it all over again.
I was actually thinking about that today. And I was thinking about one of the things about this particular series is how the reason that I find these things interesting, like, is because it does give you that thing. Like the people that like they live for their sports. Not my thing. I get the people enjoy it, but it's something that gives you that, you know, something to live for.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was just feeling so that I was just thinking about how many people, if they could find whatever underwater basket weaving, that
Yeah,
they could really something to build your life around beyond just, and many people, it's their kids, you know.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It is that is one thing. Like, do you know people who don't have that, who don't have something that they're like super into or passionate about? Like, I feel bad for people that don't have those
Very
things.
few, but I also I know a lot of people that exist, but I don't know very many people in the real world on any major on any close level. I do know a few people actually that you know that's what they do. They go to work, they go home and drink or whatever, and there's no real underlying thread beyond that.
Like, I have, some would say, you ask Emily, maybe too many passions. I don't think she would say that, but she's more of an enabler of these things than anything else. But if I see a particular piece I want for my collection, and it's a little bit more than I want to pay for it, she was like, go for it, you deserve it, you work for this, what do you work for? She'll or I'll text her and be like, I just did something stupid, I bought this, and she was like, and her response will be like, fuck yeah. Like, so it's having that support in your passions too,
Yeah.
that can make it that much more enjoyable. I mean, they don't have to, like, your significant other doesn't have to be into these things with you. I mean, it is cool. It's super cool. Like, I've had relationships with people that where they've shared those things with me, and it was awesome. But at the same time, it's not a requisite.
No, no.
But they at least have to respect and understand
Oh
where
yeah.
you're coming from.
Yeah. No,
Like, why does this guy have a billion CDs? Or records, or and or why is he so into this? This fantasy stuff. I mean, well, what are you into?
yeah.
It's just,
Well,
that's
and it is
always
very
go
strange
back to
when
that.
I
Like,
interact with somebody and there's nothing there to
yeah,
like I part of what spawned this. It's like I don't give a shit about small talk. I don't do small talk. But passions I can talk about for hours, obviously.
yeah.
And so there's just like if I can't even get to that, then there's just nothing there for me to work with at all.
Yeah, yeah, you have to find that commonality of what they love, or
Right.
love doing. Maybe, they're some people are real passionate about animals and their pets, and
Mhm.
stuff like that. And I get that, because I'm really close with my dog. Like, I never thought I would be this close with a dog. I was always more of a cat person growing up. But I love my dog, man. Like, she's my world. I come through that door and she's like on me, like Dino and the Flintstones, and I would just like, knocks me over, and is like, I thought you were never gonna come home. I thought you were never gonna come home. Like George Carlin does a bit about that, and so, when I see someone that's really into taking care of animals, respect on that
Absolutely.
level, because, like, that's awesome. I love seeing that, you know. Or even something as passionate about, like, video gaming. Like,
Oh yeah.
people, like, that's a lifestyle for some people.
Well,
Uh,
Donna's always really supportive when I'm like, because for me, it's again, it's the only time I get to turn my brain off. Like
did you
I
play Silent Hill 2 yet?
yes,
Oh,
I
dude,
know.
that is the grossest game I think I've ever played. Like, I've never seen the amount of, like, grime and rust and poop and mud in a game
Who
before.
hasn't
Like,
stuck their hand in a shit-filled toilet?
yeah, yeah, so gross. I'm like, oh my God, this is even grosser than the original version. And and oh man, it's like I'm still playing it. I'm trying to get all the endings.
Right,
You
right.
know, I've gotten four of them, but yeah, it's that's like turning your brain off.
Yeah,
That is how
that's the only time I get to really do that. And so like I have to that's one of the reasons I like having that Steam Deck is because I'll sit there, I'll be working on music or whatever, and then like stop, play a game for 15 minutes, put it back down, go back to work, and just kind of like instead of because other before my system was, I'd play a game until I felt really awful about me, all the shit that I wasn't getting done. I'd go
yeah.
back to work for that.
I'm so
And then,
ashamed of myself. I
yeah,
played for 8 hours.
um, I'm gonna wrap this up because the battery is starting to go on this.
Oh,
I
okay.
want to tell you a quick story about Daniel Meyer because it's
Okay.
fun. At one point, run into each other over the years doing whatever, and I told him I was like, "Look, well, first of all, I did a cover of "I Over You," but also that song has been a reference for me, a template that I've built other things around. It's one of my favorite songs ever. And so Ego, I think, was opening for him somewhere, and right before he goes on, he's like, "Hey, you want to do I Over You?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, but I need you. All I need is for you to start the vocal part, so I know where to come in." And so he get end of the show, a few hundred people or whatever. He calls me up, so I get up there. He starts it, hands me the mic. I start singing, and he runs off stage. So I'm doing like the entire song, just kind of like okay. And he's standing with Donna. He just kind of leans over to him. He goes like, "He's doing really good." Um, but it was this one of these kind of like I'm really glad that I have been doing this for 30 something years and know how to roll with a situation like this because otherwise like if I had been any greener or whatever, it would have just been
I I have a very similar story to that. The same exact thing happened
mhm.
with Camelab in me. He invited me up to do Suicide Jag. He gave me the mic and he took off. Like, where are you going? But yeah, it was on when they went out with USSA and Skeleton Key in like 2008. I think
I
it's
saw
before I
their
was
third
diagnosed.
show ever back because they were on Fifth Column Records and Fifth
Yes,
Column was in
yep.
DC. So it was that was one of the clubs that I went to and I worked at. And so yeah, they did their third show ever at Fifth Column.
Wow,
Mhm.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, like stories like that, man. Chef's kiss.
Oh,
You
dude,
know.
I've got a few of those. The I went to see this band Loop, um, who were kind of an offshoot of Godflesh. And there was this shitty little punk band opening on their first tour for this record they did called Bleach.
Oh man.
And there was like maybe a dozen people there. So that was one. The other one was Skinny Puppy in '88 on the Vivisect tour with this shitty little fake industrial band opening for them. So, yeah, so that was, yeah, there have been a few of those over the years. But anyway, I'm going to thank you so much for being part of this.
Oh, dude, thank you. Thank you.
And
This
I
was
want to talk
great.
to you about this thing that I've been doing.
Sure. I wish there were more moments like this, honestly.
I'm always around, I'm always around and like I'm always up stupid late, so you can always drop me a line. But thank you again. And so his record label is Distortion, and his band is Red Locust, and he's just one of the generally just backbone East Coast scene for all of this stuff.
Thanks, guys.